Hello, Minecraftians, and welcome to another edition of Realm News, episode 17. I am your host, the Dark Lord, the one who puts the real in Realm and expands your mind one block at a time. I am presenting to you today a character who tirelessly roams the overworld. I am speaking about the Wandering Trader. You will encounter this person in the oddest of places. Sometimes he is on a random cliff edge with his 2 llamas dangling right off the ledge. Sometimes he intrudes your base by materializing in thin air. This guy is the most persistent villager variant. You will see him and his 2 llamas wandering around all the biomes in the overworld. The Wandering Trader is a disputed figure in the game of Minecraft. I want to break this character down today. In today's episode, I will provide you the results to a very intriguing poll made over this Wandering Trader. We will also get real by talking about snake oil of all things, and then I will bring it back into the realm again by covering the history of the Wandering Trader in the game of Minecraft, his behavior, and a Wandering Trader theory to top it all off. Let's get started, folks. It's poll time! That's right, folks. It is poll time. And the question that I cast out into the Minecraft community for this week's poll was this: do you utilize the Wandering Trader? I wanted to know. And this poll had a respectable turnout, people. A total of 51 votes. I would say that is about our median range there on these polls. And I gave 4 options to choose from on this week's poll. Here they are. 1, yes. 2, no. 3, occasionally. 4, deletion by weapon. As usual, I will start with the loser and progress my way to first place. The loser of this week's poll are the people who voted for no. No, they do not utilize the Wandering Trader. Now, I have read a lot in regards to the public sentiment towards the Wandering Trader, and I found out throughout the months that the sentiment towards this being is not good. People genuinely dislike this transient. His prices are simply horrible, so it is not shocking to see that people voted no on him. What is shocking to me is to see that more people didn't vote no, and that this came in last place. Now, moving on to third place, with a total of 9 votes, beating the no people, the 4th place by a total of just 1 vote by a hair, are the Minecraftians who voted yes, that they use this gent. This makes sense to me after discussing this mob with other people online. I had to talk with other people in order to get it. But it seems that the Wandering Trader is extremely useful in some unique situations, such as those who play in quote-unquote super flat worlds. Those worlds are literally neutered of all their resources. They're like these specialty worlds, if you haven't heard of these. I have not until I spoke and had comments from people that play in these worlds. They have no trees for harvesting lumber, no mountains, not even bodies of water in these worlds, people. These special seeds are for those who want to play in very challenging biomes and worlds. These are odd seeds that you can go into. Honestly, I might have to give it a try one day. It kind of just struck a curiosity in me. However, players that play in these seeds have told me that they get the resources like wood from wandering travelers. I think they come in the form of saplings provided by the wandering traders, not travelers, sorry. I think you can get saplings from them, and that's what they do in these scarce worlds, and they use that as a wood source by growing trees this way. And they also get other resources that are not available to them in these environments through the Wandering Trader. People also trade with the Wandering Trader in traditional Minecraft vanilla as well. I just want to state that. In fact, I just traded with him a couple days ago for the very first time, solely for the purpose of research in today's episode. And I traded 1 emerald for 1 gunpowder. Anyways, I'd like to move on. Coming in second place with a total of 11 votes are the people who chose deletion by weapon. I am one of those 11 people. Personally, I delete them and their llamas with my sword pretty much upon seeing them. As soon as I see them in one of my cities, or if they come and bug me while I'm trekking across overworld, I will slaughter them. I am one of those people. They clutter up my towns in the most inconvenient way. My towns are not spacious. You who have been listening to this show know that by now. Mine are like forts. I build my walls up high, and I cram people in. So when one of these people just inconveniently pop in spontaneously out of thin air, I don't like it. And they bring 2 llamas. Don't bring your fodder, your beasts into my cities. That is disrespectful to me. However, that's my opinion on the trader. I believe many others out there have the same sentiments as me. Obviously, I'm not the only one that deletes them by sword. Now, moving on to first place, with the major share of the pie in this, are the people that utilize this mob, quote unquote, occasionally, meaning exactly what that means. I speculate that people use him on occasion because he can be a faster and sometimes a more convenient way to acquire some items that you need. I bought that gunpowder because it's safer than killing a creeper. I mean, that I will admit, I was pleasantly surprised by that what that Wandering Trader had for me, and I just want to list what he had. Most of it wasn't anything that struck interest to me, such as the alliums or the red sand or the tulips. I didn't consider those anything special or something I couldn't get. But one thing that he did offer that I've never seen in the overworld since anytime I've been playing this game, and I've been playing for a while now, the trader had small drip leaves. When I saw those amongst those other things, I was like, I didn't know what it was. So I had to actually research that on Minecraft Wiki. And they aren't actually that useful, but they kind of look cool and I might use them for decor. So I admit that this guy can have some interesting finds that may be hard to come by. I may switch myself from the category of deleting them by weapon to the category of trading with them occasionally. Now let's hear some comments from some Minecraftians. I received on this poll around 30 comments. The Wandering Trader, I guess, is a hot topic. I would like to start with Blue All Through, who says, quote unquote, leads and leather. And quote, so technically, I absolutely utilize them, end quote. And I said in response back to them, agreed. As I stated a moment ago, I delete them with my sword and keep the leads and the leather. Many players do. Now moving on to a player called Amatulik, they say, quote, I think I traded with the trader just once. Usually I kill the trader for leads and sometimes kill the llamas for leather. Most of my playing over the past few years has been on an island survival world where I have no villagers and no gems. The only gem I got was from an illager patrol. I don't remember what I got from the trader for that gem, end quote. First off, I said to them that you live in a very lonely world, my friend. That sounds very desolate. And they updated me by responding back by saying that they have villagers now, and they also have gyms. So it looks like they got their desolate world up and going. So that's exciting to hear and great to know. And Amatulik, you're dealing with traders as many of us do, I just want to say, and that is for the leads in leather. I see this a lot. Many of us just kill the trader and then kill the llamas for the leather. It just seems to be the main consensus, even though the poll says otherwise. People use him occasionally, but the sentiment is no one likes him. But you, Amatulik, you're in a harsh world, and you really got a benefit from trading with the Wandering Trader, I guess. With leads and leather in that way, that probably benefited you the most until you got emeralds and villagers going, and then you're able to use him. So, yeah, you kind of use him pretty much in the same way I do. Moving on to Creamy Soda 56. They go on to say, quote, use him to get moss in my world because I can't find a lush cave to save my life, end quote. I think that's a great use, and it's nice to hear something good about the Wandering Trader, that he could provide you a resource that you needed. And I see how and why you did that. After trading with him the other day and seeing that he carries random odd items, it makes perfect sense that you would get moss from him. It just shows that you can use him to your benefit. Great thinking, and thanks for that comment, Creamy Soda 56. The next comment is from Deluxe Minecraft, and they go on to say, quote, whoever he is, he's the one and only savior of my structureless, super flat world. The one reason society can thrive in a world with seemingly no life to begin with, end quote. They also go on to say, quote, on Superflat, they're a source of many resources that don't generate, but on Structureless Superflat, even the only source for wood, end quote. I guess Superflat worlds are just void of all resources, almost. Superflat sounds super interesting and difficult to me, people. I've never heard of this until I got these comments and I started talking to these people that play in these seeds, and they seem fascinating, and it seems that the Wandering Trader is absolutely almost a necessity in this seed, in this type of world. I appreciate that knowledge, and thank you, Deluxe Minecraft. And I'm sure they have much gratitude for that Wandering Traveler. I can only imagine. I need to plug in one of those seeds and check it out. So what I could discern from this poll and all the comments is this. I want to kind of sum up. Many people do not like the Wandering Trader because of his offensive prices, and many people do not need what he sells. But on the other hand, many people do commence trade with him because they are in remote biomes trying to survive, and he is the only access to some resources for people that they need to thrive in the game, or for people looking for an item that they just simply can't find, such as our friend Creamy Soda 56, who needed the moss but had yet to discover a lush cave biome in order to acquire it. He uses the Wandering Trader to fulfill this need. As a person who admittedly kills the Wandering Trader, I have had a change of heart for the chap. I say he is 50-50 in my book now. Come see, come saw, as the French say. So now moving on from pull time, we are headed into the reel of the show, my friends, where I will take you back in time yet again. Welcome to the reel of the show, my friends. I shall begin this with a definition from Merriam-Webster.com, which describes the word nomad being 1. A member of a people who have no fixed residence but move from place to place, usually seasonally and within a well-defined territory. The second part of that definition is an individual who roams about. Now, why am I talking about nomads? Well, this is the most fitting description for the Wandering Trader. This mob literally roams the entire overworld. Well, there's another word that fits the description of the wandering trader just as well as the nomad, and that would be charlatan. Yes, I chose the word charlatan for this segment of the episode to represent the wandering trader because the consensus is that he is not a favored mob in the game. The proof is in the poll, the poll says that 11 Minecraftians out of 51 are willing to quote-unquote delete him by weapon, and 8 of them do not even trade with this guy. That equals out to be 37% of the poll participants. That's more than a third of the numbers there, people. This to me is a good indicator that he is not favored, mostly due to the nonsensical products that he peddles and his extravagant prices for these rather useless items. A charlatan, according to Merriam-Webster.com, is, quote, one making usually showy pretenses to knowledge or ability, end quote. The word charlatan stems specifically from Italy, the country Italy. Before the English language made its contribution to this word, charlatan mutated from a couple of words that I will explain right now. The first one being the word Serato, which is actually a town's name in Italy where fraudsters who sold fake health tonics were known to come from. The second word that was used to form the word charlatan is the Italian verb to chatter, which is charlare, which is how these crooks would advertise their goods, literally chattering to advertise their products by calling out their wares and products in towns that they would set up in. They would yell out to people to come and buy their health tonics and or whatnot, other products they were trying to peddle. A person from Serato is called a seretano. The two words seretano and the verb charlare for chatter were eventually fused together in a way that formed a new word to describe this type of crook. It is charlatano. Charlatano, then introduced later into the English language, morphed a little bit more into the word that we know it as today, charlatan. Charlatano combined with charlare, making charlatano, and then later to English charlatan. Charlatano to charlatan. This word has taken on many different names: imposter, phony, mountebank, faker, and quack are just a few of the words that are used interchangeably with charlatan. A very famous type of a charlatan in American history that I want to talk about is the snake oil salesman. This term is typically associated with a con artist or just a sleazy, slick type of a person who is out to scam you. But I ask, what is this snake oil that is sold? Where did it come from? According to the article found on NPR.com titled A History of a Snake Oil Salesman by Lakshmi Gandhi, dated August 26, 2013, snake oil is a remedy for alleviating aches and pains. It was brought over to the United States by indentured Chinese servants that were sent to work on the Transcontinental Railroad. With their arrival to the States, they brought along with them snake oil that is made from the Chinese water snake fat. They would use this oil at the end of the long workday and rub it into their skin around their achy joints. The snake oil, as it turns out, is amazing in reducing inflammation. It has been used for hundreds of years to treat arthritis and bursitis. In case you do not know what bursitis is, according to Wikipedia, titled bursitis is inflammation of one or more bursae sacs. There are around 150 bursae sacs in the human body, and they act as lubricant in joints and tendons. They are what allow for our frictionless movement in our limbs when you move around. That's why you aren't so rigid all the time. They are pretty handy to have and not pleasant when they are inflamed. this paints a picture of how popular this must have been amongst these railroad workers, right? Well, I have another article titled How Snake Oil Got a Bad Rap. Hint, it wasn't the snake's fault, by Lisa Hicks, found at collectorsweekly.com. The oil from this particular snake is very rich in an essential vitamin to the human body, which is the omega-3. This article goes on to explain that in the 1980s, a neurophysiology researcher tested the Chinese water snake oil to see the amount of, I'll try to pronounce this, to find the amount of this type acid, eicosapentaenoic acid, or otherwise called EPA for short, which is the omega-3 acid, or that's what I ascertained from the article. It's an acid that forms part of this omega-3. Maybe it's one of the three in the three attached to the omega. Who knows? I don't know. I didn't dive that much further into this acid. However, he found out that it contained a fair amount of this oil within it. About 20% Chinese water snake oil is composed of EPA. To compare that with something familiar to you that is rich in omega-3 is salmon. Salmon contains 18% EPA, which is a fair amount and comes close to the Chinese water snake, but still does not match that. And for further comparison, I want to go ahead and provide to you how much EPA is contained in rattlesnake oil. Rattlesnake oil only contains about 8.5% EPA. During the research of the Chinese water snake oil by this researcher, researchers also discovered that this oil is very beneficial to some other ailments besides arthritis and bursitis. It also helps improve cognitive functions. It reduces blood pressure and cholesterol, and also helps in reducing depression. Talk about a true cure-all, folks. Now, Lakshmi Gandhi's article goes on to explain that the Americans who worked alongside these Chinese indentured servants during the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad during the 1800s took notice of them applying this tonic to their achy joints. The Chinese then shared it with them, their American counterparts, and it became instantly popular amongst people with intense labor jobs. One can only imagine how soothing this oil was after doing such hazardous, long, laborious work. It did not take long for hucksters, though, and cons to start making their own versions of the oil. This brings me to the most famous snake oil salesman in American history. The man who personally turned the term snake oil into a derogatory term. The name of this person is Clark Stanley. According to the Smithsonian Institute at www.si.edu, Clark Stanley was born in Texas in the year of 1854. A self-proclaimed American cowboy who said that he lived amongst the Native Americans called the Hopi. Supposedly, the Hopi taught Mr. Stanley the secret paddles of rattlesnake oil. Yes, the oil from rattlesnakes, people. Remember that for later. Now, Mr. Stanley, with the secret knowledge of the healing powers of rattlesnake oil, went from cowpoke to entrepreneur. He started his own company that manufactured this wonderful tonic. He had 2 production facilities, according to the Smithsonian. One of those were in Beverly, Massachusetts, and another in Providence, Rhode Island. Returning back to Lakshmi Gandhi's article, it appears that he had a knack for sales. He had a flair or pizzazz that he brought into his show. Yes, this was more of an entertaining show that he performed than it was a sales pitch. He used performance in order to draw a crowd in. Remember, the word charlatan comes partially from the word to chatter or to call people in. He actually made headlines at the 1893 World's Fair, where he demonstrated how he made his famous liniment oil. Allow me to read you a quote from the article that captured his act at the World's Fair. Quote, Stanley reached into a sack, plucked out a snake, slit it open, and plunged it into boiling water. When the fat rose to the top, he skimmed it off and used it on the spot to create Stanley's snake oil, a liniment that was immediately snapped up by the throng that had gathered to watch the spectacle. End quote. People were just stunned by the spectacular performance. I imagine that they bought it up as fast as he could hand it out. Now, if you remember what I told you earlier about researching Kunin, the person in the 80s that conducted scientific research over the Chinese snake oil EPA percentage, remember that guy? Well, he showed us that the Chinese water snake has 20% EPA, remember? In that essential working acid in the omega-3. And if you remember also, the rattlesnake only possesses an 8.5% EPA, less than half of the Chinese water snakes. It's not the same as the oil. It does help with aches and pains to a slight degree. What I'm saying is Native Americans did use this for aches and pains, but it wasn't as effective as the Chinese water snake's oil. But that's not the worst part. Even though that this rattlesnake oil isn't as effective that he claims that his product is made of, the worst part is what truly makes Mr. Stanley a charlatan was that he did not use any snake oil at all. Rattlesnake nor Chinese water snakes. No snake oil at all in his product. Yes, he was a huckster, a fraud, a true snake oil salesman. This is how the term literally became associated with people who lie about a product or service. Clark Stanley is the man responsible for turning something that was known for its health benefits into a term used to describe fraud. His fraudulent business was found out at the beginning of the 20th century, not long after the Food and Drug Administration was formed in 1906. In 1917, the FDA seized a shipment of his liniment snake oil and had it tested. And they found that it did not contain one drop of snake oil. Instead, they found that it consisted of beef fat from cows, red pepper, and turpentine. Sounds amazing. Who doesn't want to smell like a nasty animal and spicy turpentine after working hard all day? Stanley's product was not deadly, but it was a lie nonetheless. He received a little slap on the wrist by the FDA for quote-unquote misbranding and quote-unquote falsely and fraudulently representing it as a remedy for all pain. He was fined a measly $20, which wasn't anything even back in those days' standards. $20 back then came out to $429 today. And after that, though, the proverbial curtain was pulled from his snake oil empire. And the term snake oil has stuck as a negative connotation from then on, folks. And it's been in use to reference politicians all the way to bad businessmen. It is just another way of saying that someone is lying to you or is a liar and a con. Now, I'd like to go back to the realm, folks, where I would like to elaborate on the wandering trader. The Wandering Trader is one of the most recognized mobs in the game of Minecraft, and to sum him up, you can trade with him. He appears everywhere. He is a walking advertisement with his flashy outfit and 2 pet llamas. And this guy has been randomly encountering us in our villages and tracks across the overworld for quite some time now. We were all introduced to the Wandering Trader in Snapshot 19W05A, which was released in January 30th, 2019. The 19th Snapshot Mojang released and is titled The Village and Pillage Update. The Wandering Trader before its release had been a hard mob to artistically create. Yes, they disagreed a lot in the making of this guy. They wanted the mob to be mysterious but outlandish in his wardrobe. They wanted to distinguish it differently from regular villagers as well. According to the author Per Landon, yes, the first name is Per, P-E-R, who wrote the article titled Meet the Wandering Trader, found at Minecraft.net and published on March 22nd, 2019. The idea for the Wandering Trader was inspired by role-playing games or RPGs, because typically in these type games, in difficult scenarios, a merchant or somebody of that nature is usually around to trade with to help you out. Makes sense to have the same thing in the overworld, because the overworld is a treacherous place to roam around. However, I do not find his items that he sells to be useful for survival. Now, allow me to describe the appearance of this mob to you. Starting with the Wandering Trader's head. This mob has a blue hood with gold trim that envelops their head. This hood is attached to a robe that is also lapis lazuli blue with gold trim around it, adorned with terracotta red accents around the sleeve cuffs and along the bottom of the robe. Underneath his hood, the Wandering Trader wears an additional garment that appears to be a terracotta red shroud. Almost looks like a red head sock that covers the mouth and his forehead. I imagine this is a dust blocker. I speculate that it is great for blocking out silt blown in the wind and other small particulates that are prevalent in biomes such as deserts, badlands, and tundras, and other biomes that have much wind exposure accompanied by other debris such as snow, sand, and air. Blowing in the air, sorry. Moving on, the trader has emerald green eyes just like that of the villagers. He also has an elongated nose just like villagers as well. The anatomy of the villager is just like that of the Wandering Trader. Under the trader's lapis lazuli blue robe, he wears an overshirt. This shirt is linked to the popular nitwit theory that I have personally dubbed the quote-unquote the Wandering Nitwit theory. Yes, I placed a title to this theory that I keep seeing online and in subreddits. I will explain this theory later in the show, but his shirt is the exact same color as the Nitwit shirt, which is an olive green if you look at the two. Now, moving on to his arms. He always has his arms clasped together as if in prayer, held at mid-chest, and it's held right above his gold belt buckle. Now, below the belt, at first glance, I thought what he wore were brown pants. However, I was wrong. These are brown capris. They go down to his calves. And then if you go look at his feet, his footwear look like a Roman-era type sandal. They remind me of an outdoor hiking sandal that you can buy at REI or some other outdoor store. And they just look like sandals that the ancient Romans wore, that you see in movies, like the movie 300. Watch that. That's what he looks like he's wearing. But I imagine they're perfect for crossing water and dry land, arid landscapes, but I don't think they would be very convenient to wear in snowy biomes, unless he has like furry hobbit feet or something, I don't know. However, I should mention he always has 2 llamas with him as well. I don't know if I mentioned that already, but he always has 2 llamas with him, unless they've been slaughtered by hostiles already, and then you'll see him just meandering around by himself. However, if he has them with him, he pulls them around with leads. Now that you have a good picture in your head of the Wandering Trader's physical appearance, I want to move on to his behavior. Now let's move on to the Wandering Trader's behavior. The Wandering Trader, from what I read on Minecraft Wiki, will try to spawn near you after one overworld day, which is 20 minutes, if you don't remember Celestial Bodies episode. If you don't, go back to that and listen to it. I describe everything about the moon, the sun, stars, and how it affects game behavior. Anyways, after that initial day, there will be a 25% chance of him spawning near you. This goes up to 50% and 75% and so on until one eventually spawns. So I tell you this, just hold tight. He'll eventually appear, okay? Don't worry. He will also have the chance to spawn within 48 blocks from a claimed bell. You will more likely find him around these bells and villages. in naturally spawned villages. If you're new to the game, just remember that. Go to a village. In fact, I guarantee you're going to find a wandering trader well before you find a village. I'm sure. But if not, go to a village. You'll find him probably around a bell. And wherever you place a bell that you take from a natural village, he will generate around that as well. They will try to spawn 48 blocks away from you also, wherever you are in the overworld. And if you are patient, if you're more patient than I am, if you want this guy to despawn, he'll despawn in 2 overworld days, which equals out to be 40 minutes. I'm not that patient. I always kill them right off the bat and then I collect their leads and leather from their spitting llamas. That's just what I do. But if you want to wait 40 minutes, he should just naturally disappear. And I want to go on to say that when he does generate, this is his behavior. He will walk around randomly within that 16 block radius of his spawning point. And also, I want to point out an interesting phenomena that you'll witness occasionally when encountering this merchant in the overworld is that he sometimes a caravan will form with him. When feral llamas are out and about, they may join his 2 domesticated llamas that he pulls behind with him. I just thought that was kind of an interesting game mechanic. Now, moving on, the Wandering Trader is a passive mob in the game, and he will avoid threats to him by hiding. When night starts to fall upon the overworld, the Wandering Trader will pull out one of his infinite bottles of invisibility and start chugging them like there is no tomorrow. You'll hear the glug, 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 glugs, and then you'll see this guy just disappear. If you are new to the game, I recommend that you spend a night watching from a safe distance, perhaps on top of one of your city walls, and just find one of these wandering traders out there beyond your wall, and watch when the sun sets, how he will drink his potion and turn into the invisible man. You will see the leads just floating in mid-air attached to the llamas, but you will see no wandering trader. It is quite comical to watch. He does this so he can avoid threats such as zombies, ravagers, skeletons, vexes, and illagers altogether. He wants to avoid these, and he does so by keeping an 8-block distance away from these hostile mobs. The llamas are really his only line of defense against any threat. Whenever the llama's master is attacked, they will start to spit at the aggressor. And getting struck by their spit will cause a half of a heart damage, or 1 damage point. Now, I would like to move on to trading with the Wandering Trader. Personally, I have a difficult time justifying paying for these objects that I can just go out personally and find myself. That is just my sentiment. But if you do want to trade with this Wandering Trader, there are some useful things to know, such as he carries a total of 6 completely random objects. These objects are typically something natural that are found in the overworld, such as biome-specific places. For example, the small drip leaf. That's something that my Seatown trader was offering me. Let me tell you what he offered me, the 6 objects. Yes, he had a small drip leaf, but he also had 1 gunpowder, 4 red sand, 1 pink tulip, 1 allium, and 3 light gray dye. And he was offering each one of those for 1 emerald, which is, to me, a ripoff. But I should say that the prices have become much more fair since Mojang updated the trade interaction back on August 3rd, 2023. Before that, the prices were straight up price gouging. No, straight up rip off. Also, unlike villagers, moving on from that, Wandering Trader does not go by the novice to master system. They don't do that. They don't abide by the villager system. He abides at 1 level and has his own system apart from the villagers. Also, when he runs out of an item, it is gone for good until you happen to come across another Wandering Trader that happens to have that item that you wanted more of. Their prices do not fluctuate at all. The price is as is. No matter how much you trade with this guy, even if you hit them or make them angry, or even if you are the hero of the village, the price always stays the same. The wandering trader is considered to be a great service for getting biome-specific items without having to do the heavy lifting yourself or finding it yourself. He can also be used as a tool. I'm sorry I can't speak right now, but I want to say that he can also be used as a tool to make non-renewable resources renewable. And as the poll has suggested, the majority of people do utilize this nomad in the overworld. The majority say occasionally. With that said, I would like to now move on to my personal theory that I have developed over this merchant. And this is the wandering trader theory. I call it the wandering trader theory, okay? This is my personal theory. There are many theories on the origin story of this character. Who is he? Where did he come from? These are both very important questions that are worth asking. Now, allow me to explain my theory to this mysterious robed gent. My theory is rather simplistic in its explanation. It is not as elaborate as some other people's theories. I'll dive right into it now. I believe that the wandering trader is a person who simply filled a niche a niche post-collapse of the ancient builder civilization, and in the ever-present threat of zombies and other monsters. In episode 1 of Realm News, titled Cleric's Cloak, I vaguely touched base on the general theory of ancient builders going extinct from a zombie outbreak. From possibly thousands of years prior to us setting foot on the overworld. This is an overall agreed upon theory by Minecraftians in the Minecraft community. Well, I would like to elaborate on what occurred post-ancient builder apocalypse by saying that after the extinction of ancient builders, a group of people different in physical appearance, I'm talking about the builders that we know of today, okay? I'm talking about these people, a group that came after the ancient builders. They emerged to what we know as the villagers today. They started to reform civilization from the rebel left behind from the ancient builders. These people that became villagers, that eventually became these villagers that we know today, are what I call the original wastelander. Yes, I love Fallout, so I am borrowing that term wastelander because essentially that's what these villagers were initially. The ancient builders destroyed the overworld. You can argue all day, but you know my theory. If you don't, go back to episode 1 and listen to episode 2. I explain it all right there. Listen to it. But however, you can't argue the ancient builders destroyed the overworld. So these people were the original wastelanders, the villagers. They're the ones that were around after the builders died and had to rummage through the rubble left behind from them. Yes, they were the people who claimed the destroyed overworld, the overworld destroyed by ancient builders, and these wastelanders started to form into groups, becoming villagers and eventually forking off into another group called pillagers in the timeline. Villagers and pillagers are separate, but I believe they forked off from the same evolutionary timeline. I shall not elaborate on the relationship between the pillager and the villager today. I want to focus on the villager because these villagers are numerous. They form villages in every above-ground biome in the overworld. These villagers form unique societies that specialize in unique professions such as clerics, blacksmiths, textile producers, and many more occupations such as cartographers who more than likely had the knowledge with their maps and know-how of other nearby villages. This knowledge of other villages would entice trade. It would naturally make sense. This brings me back to the wandering trader. This mob naturally solved a logistical trade problem between villages by being the only one willing to cross vast distances in hostile terrain, going through the never-ending apocalypse left over from the ancient race. and to deliver goods to other villages, to one another. As I mentioned earlier, the wandering trader will spawn around village bells. This is the economic center point of every village. This is the hotspot for trade and commerce in every bustling village. So in a very simplistic explanation, the wandering trader naturally filled the gap, becoming the only link between villages. This leads me to speculate that they are more than likely the only person able to also deliver news between villages as well. I must go on to say that the wandering trader is of the same race as the villager, and not that of the pillager. He looks exactly like a villager from nose, eyebrow, and eyes. I tell you this specifically because I would like to disprove a popular theory over the wandering trader, which is the nitwit theory. Many Minecraftians support what I dub now. I don't call it the nitwit theory. I call it the wandering nitwit theory. I believe it's more precise and more of an apt title. This is probably the most popular theory on the wandering trader amongst the Minecraft community. People say that the wandering trader is a nitwit who was cast out of quote-unquote village society, essentially for being a deadbeat, for lack of better words, a non-contributor to society, I should say. A fellow Minecraftian who supports this theory, who goes by Mick Gladiator, says, quote, he used to be a village nitwit. As you can see, some of the green robes under the blue. And he left the village to look for more items and stuff he could trade with. In case you didn't know, the nitwit villagers cannot get a job in-game. They will not seek out / claim any job block. Likely, the path of a wanderer was the only option available for a nitwit who wanted to actually do something. End quote. This is a compelling theory, and I was in agreement with the wandering nitwit theory at first. My brother, the Sun King, also used to believe the same theory. He speculated that at one point in time, he speculated that once a population reached a certain number, that this would cause the working villagers to remove nitwits from the village. I disagree with the nitwit theory for a couple reasons. The wandering trader could not have been a nitwit due to one physical piece of evidence: his language. Yes, the wandering trader speaks a different language, or is speaking with an accentuated language, or an accent, I should say, not accentuated language, or he's speaking with an accent which still suggests the mob is a foreigner. This supporting evidence for this is directly linked by Mojang themselves in the article I mentioned earlier, written by Per Landon, titled Meet the Wandering Trader. I have a quote from that article. Quote, the hood isn't the only aspect that makes the wandering traders stand out from the rest of the villagers. They also have their own unique voice, which further raises the question of who they really are. End quote. This automatically nullifies the credibility of the wandering nitwit theory, because the nitwit is originally a villager from a village community. If this nitwit theory was true, then the wandering trader would naturally have the same language and accent of a villager. All villagers in all biomes speak the same language. However, the wandering trader speaks a unique language. This further supports my theory that the wandering trader split off from the villager society to fill the niche of intercommerce between villages. This would have led to the development of their own lingua franca. Lingua franca simply means a common language used between two parties who speak different languages. A language that developed independently from villager language over a long period of time. Besides developing their own language, the wandering trader developed their own unique culture, which is demonstrated in their wardrobe. I described to you earlier their appearance. Well, to me, they look appropriate for crossing many terrains, as I've already stated. I mentioned that they also have red accents on their robe. To me, this is the same color as the red terracotta that forms the Ankh symbols on the desert temples. The robe is also primarily the color blue. To me, this indicates the singularly blue terracotta block that marks the spot to dig in the desert temple in order to find the hidden treasure room. If you all remember my Farthian Desert episode, go back and listen to that. But I described to you that there's a singular blue terracotta block inside the desert temple, and if you dig that block out, directly underneath it is the treasure room. And also protecting the treasure is 9 blocks of TNT. So I think there's something there to that blue block and the color blue on the Wandering Trader. Now moving on, the gold trim, I believe, is also an indicator that he comes from the desert. Gold is more prevalent in deserts. I strongly believe that the Wandering Trader is tied to the desert temple. His attire is perfect for arid landscapes, and the color of his wardrobe is symbolic to the colors composing the desert temple. Clerics are also tied to this temple, as I have stated in episode 1. I believe the Wandering Trader works in conjunction with the cleric. The Wandering Trader acts more like a messenger amongst the clerics, helping keep their sacred religion unified. This sacred religion, as explained in episode 1, is based around the creeper, and the clerics keep the Wandering Trader supplied with invisibility potions and milk to keep him safe. That is my theory on the Wandering Trader, but that is just a theory, everybody. I would love to hear yours. Go to bio.link/realm news and let me know all about it. With that said, this brings me towards the end of the show. That is all I have on the Wandering Trader for today, folks. I honestly hope you all enjoyed that. I hope you all learned a lot. And I also hope that I left you a lot to think about. Do you think that the Wandering Trader is a good mob to have in the overworld? Or do you think that he is like Clark Stanley, the famous snake oil salesman? Also, what are your theories on the Wandering Trader? Do you agree with my theory that this is a guy that split off from the villager race of people in order to fill a niche by trading goods from village to village and also serving the sacred creeper religion with the clerics? There is a lot to speculate on this mysterious stranger, from his language to his clothes. I will leave it to you to decide what he is and where he came from. I hope the information I provided to you today will help you make your own theories and lore. Until next week, my friends, I wish you all happy crafting. The Dark Lord signing out. Hey, Minecraft enthusiasts, the Dark Lord here. I just want to thank each and every one of you for listening to the show and showing your support. Realm News is found wherever podcasts can be found. If you enjoy this show, I urge you to spread the word. Tell all of your friends, family, and colleagues about it. Get them interested. My goal is to get 100 followers. I want to build a big Realm News community around this great podcast. You can join the Realm News Discord, Reddit pages, Twitter, and email, all at bio.link/realm news. Again, that is bio.link/realm news. I look forward to seeing you all there, and don't forget to rate the show and leave comments.